Welcome to the Eric Bear Show, where Tay, right here, and myself, both her and I, are going to bring fun, seriousness, and encouragement, helping you to think on your own, grow on your own, and to be everything that you should be and can be and have the potential of being. Here we go. Okay, so Father's Day is coming up. I love my dad. He did so many things for me. He taught me how to have a can-do attitude, and my mom supported that. He taught me how to work hard, and my mom enforced that. Yes or no?
Yes.
And he taught me that we should always try and love and forgive.
That's right.
Yeah. I remember that time we got in that fisticuffs with the neighbor kid, or I did, or we both did. Who started, I don't remember. But he's like, the guy came over and said, "I'm sorry, you should forgive." You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wah, wah, wah. But he taught me a valuable lesson. You got to forgive, and especially if somebody comes over and says, "Hey, I'm sorry." That takes a real man or a real woman to stand up and say, I made a mistake, and to own up to the mistake. So my dad taught me those things, the hard work, the can-do, and he also taught me a great lesson when he was a corporate executive for Abitibi Price. They took over, I think, 1,600 employees or something like that. And then, so his idea and philosophy was no employee should suffer a bad experience from their employer. And because he was so generous and created a generous attitude and 401ks and retirements and things like that for the employees, they didn't want to join the union because they were so happy with that. So with that, you want to add a little something to that?
Mart was just a wonderful person. He was practically perfect.
Just like his son. Just kidding. Now you weren't here. Still trying to live up to that. So, but why don't you tell me a little bit about your dad, Vincent Lincoln Anderson? He's half Swedish, right? You were full blood Swedish.
He was full-blood Swedish. And his parents came over from Sweden to the United States and settled in Chicago. And he was just a wonderful person. Super.
So tell me about how did he sign up, go through basic training, and come out a captain in World War II?
Well, that was because he was an expert in telephones. And so he said, I got to have at least this much money to support my family, or I can't go in. And he was just about at the cutoff point for age.
And he volunteered, enlisted, right?
Yes, and so they said, fine, we'll make you a captain. And that was enough for us to live on. We had to sell the car. But other than that, that was enough for us my mother and I, to live on. And he served 3.5 years in Europe and went through some terrible, terrible times. And 1944 was the worst winter they'd ever had, 44, 45. And it was really cold. And I don't know, he came back home and everything was just wonderful. I mean, he was the best dad one could ever have.
And then one thing that always interested me that is, he was the breadwinner at the house, but Grandma also was a teacher before the teachers union, correct?
Oh yeah.
And when did your mom, my grandmother, get her degree from college?
1930.
1930. Did a lot of women graduate from college back in 1930?
No.
It was almost frowned upon maybe then?
Well, you were supposed to get married and have children.
But she decided to wait for the right one.
Yes.
There you go. So she didn't get her MRS degree.
No, she went to college and then she taught for several years till she met my father. And
How did they meet?
at a dance, back in the day, there used to be dance halls that would have various big name bands come in. And it was a little town she taught in. And she met my father, and one thing led to another, and 2 years later they were married.
That's really cute. And one thing that impressed me too is that he had a lot of crazy hours. Is that correct?
Well, by the time he got back from the war, he was 24/7 because he was a district construction superintendent. And if anything went wrong with a telephone, he was the first one they called, and then he dispatched the crews because he was in charge of the lower third of Illinois.
Wow. So one thing that impressed me is like when you had when I went through my divorce, and it's, you hear a lot of things, and I asked her a lot of questions, and I was like, did how did you guys handle birthdays or Christmas or whatever, and if he wasn't there? And you told me
We just waited till he was there, and we had a late birthday. We had late Christmas one year because there was a huge ice storm in Chicago, and so they had to take everybody up there.
Yeah. Well, and what did that teach you, or what did you teach me at that time when I was kind of all down about stuff?
Well, you just have to make do with whatever happens.
And you stand as a family unit, and you stand behind each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what makes it successful for both the male, the female, and the kids, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I think that's a good tribute to Father's Day there. And I thank God for my dad. She thanks God for her dad. And if there was ever a situation with your father, or you didn't know your father, or something like that, all I can say is God is love, and He cares about you, and I guess that's why they call Him God the Father. Wouldn't you say that?
Yes, He is our Father.
Yeah, and so it makes those times where we don't have a dad. Your dad passed away early.
Yes, I was 14.
And so you look to the love of God the Father during those times, many times, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's what I would encourage. Even if there's something there's always God the Father. He loves you very much, and He loves us. So with that, happy Father's Day.
Some water back from my family. Yeah, down by the river. That's where we hang out. Guess what? The river's clean. It's nice. And there's no coronavirus over here. Yeah, only the Secchies. Maybe a little Budweiser too. All right, you come and join me now. Here we go.
Okay, so I'm here with my mom, and we're going to talk about a couple other things here before we shut this thing down. But one thing that I never. Just tell me about your childhood, your upbringing with your mom and dad, and where you got this deep feeling of creation and all that stuff.
Well, in a way, it's been an ongoing thing through my whole life, and it started when I was little. I don't know when. But I always knew God was there because we always prayed before I went to bed. And it was just, I always knew God was there.
And then you were saying, yeah, and then you were saying something about when you were like 14. There was what happened then around that time period?
My father died, and very suddenly, and
That was just for a framework. That was right after World War II. He'd been back from the war about 5 years, served our country, gave his life for our freedom. Yeah.
Yes, he did. He was a very talented person. He really was super smart, and he went in as a captain because he knew so much about telephone systems. And he
Came out as a
major, and he was just really a very, very smart man.
and a good father.
And a good father, yes. He was kind of my idol, especially after he died, because he'd been gone so much of my life because he was in the war for 3.5 years, and he probably would not have to have gone, but he enlisted because he felt that he had talent and he could do something for the country, and he very much was a patriot and a loyal American. I mean, you couldn't have been any more loyal than he was.
And when he came back from the war, there was he had he spent a lot of cold nights out, especially that one winter. I think you said was a little
Winter of '44 over in Europe, it was very cold, and he came back with Raynaud's disease.
Raynaud's,
and it
something to do with the nervous system or something.
No, well, I don't really know. They probably have figured it out by now. I think, I don't know, but for sure what causes it. But your hands and feet get very cold, especially your hands. And then when they would start to warm up, it would feel like pins and needles in your hands.
That doesn't sound fun. So he was back from the war about 5 years before he passed.
It'd be about 6 or 7 years.
Gotcha. What's a really cool, memorable time that, I guess one thing that I always thought was really cool is that a lot of times they would have problems on Christmas or holidays and with the phone system, and he would have to run out the door, and you guys would always wait up Christmas or birthdays or something like that for him.
That's right. Yeah, there was once a sleet storm in northern Illinois, and he was gone almost a month, and it was over Christmas and into New Year's. And we just waited and put everything in the freezer and celebrated Christmas when he got back.
That's cool. That's what families do, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and then after he passed and went on to heaven, you were around 14?
About that, yeah.
And what was that experience that you had there with God in your heart?
I was sitting in the middle of my bed one night reading the Bible, and I just had this very peaceful feeling that God was there and he was going to take care of me and I shouldn't worry, and that my dad was in heaven and he was being cared for.
Well, that's a comfort that money just can't buy.
Yeah, it was very comforting.
Then we wanted to talk a little bit about socialism and communism. I kind of wanted to get your definition of why that was so bad. Typically, do socialists and communists keep God in their system, or is God taken out?
Pretty much taken out. They tend to, the communists don't like him at all. And they consider it the opiate of the people.
Stalin said that, right?
I think so. I think it was Stalin. I don't know. And it might have been Lenin. And socialism is on the way to communism. It's not as bad, but both forms of government, and they've never been successful. They've never lasted. But the thing that you give up when those come in is freedom. And we have to be free. God made us free. And we should all be free.
Yeah, we shouldn't be under the direction and control of people, whether it's through religion or through government or through
anything. No one should control you. You have to make up your
news
own
media.
mind.
That's what I was thinking. News media.
Huh?
News media is another one. How they control you.
Oh, news media is terrible. I am so disgusted with most of the news that comes out because it's biased. A few little words here and there kind of give a slant on things directed toward one party, and it's just not good. What we need is freedom. That is the only thing that's good. God made us free, and we can do anything we want to with that freedom. We can be good, we can be bad, we can
Be in the middle. Be in the middle of good and bad.
no, well,
Okay, I was trying to-
not really. I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. Another thing, if you could say one thing, well, I think you've said already that was pretty. The freedom thing is, I think that's the one thing that you wanted to say that you could leave with, your kids and the kids to follow, is that we've just got to keep this place free.
Absolutely. It's like the movie about Wallace in Scotland, and the ending was that freedom is the most important thing that they're going after. And I just remember that line, him yelling freedom, and it was wonderful.
I would say freedom's a good thing to, in my honor system, to be willing to give my life for. It's not like I'm going to lay my life down. I'm going to take a few with me if I have to. But, hopefully we don't have to come to that place. But on the flip side, that's what soldiers have died for the longest time, to preserve our internal American freedom. And we've had to work very hard to keep America a free place. And it's been all Americans that have done this. And when I say Americans, that's anybody that is a citizen.
Yes, that's right. And a few non-citizens have joined the military, but not many.
Well, I was talking mainly about, the workforce and the people and the passion. And when I was talking about Americans, the definition of that is, anybody that's, I want to be a part of this country and be in there. So with that, I think that she's left a lot of good, wonderful pictures that my mom has painted here, so that you can think about what happened back in the old days and how hard it was back then and how much people sacrificed back then. Wouldn't you say that?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
It's a
don't know.
cakewalk now, right?
I don't know how they did what they did when this country was founded because transportation was so difficult. It was horseback or carriage, and the distances were very great for that type of transportation. And for them to achieve all they achieved, I don't know how they did it.
Well, part of it was, we had back then. I think we had quite a few enemies. I mean, we had to kind of stand on our own 2 feet.
Oh,
And
yeah. Well, England was our enemy.
But again, back to the freedom thing. I think that's what we need to hold dear is our freedom that we have, our freedom, like you said, to worship earlier. We were talking about that, our freedom, however you define God. Yes, we've defined it on this channel, but on the flip side, however you define God is we respect that. And
Well, like the Indians, American Indians, used to say the Great Spirit.
yes, so with that, to the Great Spirit we've already defined. God bless you. God bless America.
And God bless everyone watching this.
Okay, so
It is recording, yes.
5 million records. Yeah. Um, 5 million. 5 million people have. I don't know the stats. Just tell me the 5 million deal
That's the
here.
number I've heard. So in 2020 alone, and of course we're not even at the end of 2020, right? We're almost, but we're not there yet. 5 million first-time gun buyers. That means people who've never owned a gun before finally made the decision that things are chaotic and scary enough that they want a gun. They went down to the gun store, the gun show, wherever it is, they purchased a gun for the first time. That's 5 million people, which I love. I love that number. I think it's great. I'd love for it to be 10 or 50 million. But there's a training element that needs to be discussed there too. Just because you own a gun and assuming a box of ammunition doesn't mean you're ready to defend yourself or your loved ones. Just because you
Right.
have the equipment doesn't mean anything. You need to know how
Right.
to use it.
Yeah, so that's basically what we've been saying the whole time, and that was great to bring that up. It's 5 million in 2020, but there's millions that have never even darkened the door of a place, and they have the gun there.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've got a friend that he's had a gun for 30, 40 years, and he was like, I kind of forgot how to run this little mini thing. I was like, I think for number one, I think you should get a different one, something safer, and number two, you need to go to training. So that's
Speaking of training, I would promote everybody to come to Front Sight, but that's very self-serving. But I'd say that because we're a professional organization. That's all we do. We don't sell guns. We don't sell T-shirts and archery equipment or anything like that. We're not like some sporting goods store. We're a defensive firearms training facility. That's what we do. We don't do sporting clays, trap and skeet. We don't do competitions and things like that. We teach people how to defend themselves and their loved ones if the chips are ever down. So I would love those people, those 5 million and the rest of them, to come to Front Sight and get the training that they need. But we're in Las Vegas. If somebody's in Philadelphia or something, and maybe it's not.
I'm going to say it's worth the flight. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it straight up. It's worth the flight. And besides that, you come here. I don't know what you have there, but the memberships are very affordable, and so it's not like you're going to break the piggy bank, even if you get your family involved. With that, I'm going to say thank you and God bless. Thanks, Brad.
My pleasure. I appreciate being here. Thank you.